Have you ever poured your heart and soul into a business, working relentlessly, only to find, your bank account looking emptier than your fridge after a holiday weekend? So many entrepreneurs feel like they're building this monster, a business that demands everything and seems to give very little back.
It's a struggle we see constantly.
Yeah.
And what's particularly insightful here, I think, is how often conventional business finance advice actually works against our human nature. It traps us in what the author, Michalowicz, calls the survival trap, just this cycle of constant chasing.
Right. So today we're diving into a really powerful system that promises to, well, flip that script entirely. It's designed to make your business permanently profitable, like from your very next deposit. We're exploring Mike Michalusz's Profit First. It's a refreshingly simple, maybe even shockingly effective approach to business finance. We'll dig into why the traditional methods often fall short, how this more intuitive system operates, and how it might bring you some real financial clarity and freedom.
Yeah, get ready for some genuine aha moments, I'd say. It's
Yeah.
a framework that could fundamentally change how you manage money.
Not just in business, right? But maybe in your whole life.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's begin by confronting this monster in the room. Why do businesses often struggle even when they look successful on the surface?
Yeah.
The author, Mike Michalowicz, he shares his own pretty humbling wake-up call. I mean, he'd sold 2 multi-million-dollar companies, felt like he had the Midas touch.
Right, living the dream, supposedly.
Yeah, totally. Bought 3 luxury cars, including his college fantasy dream car, a Dodge Viper. He kind of jokes about it now, calls it that ridiculously flashy status symbol from his heyday.
Oh, yeah.
Rented a house on a remote Hawaiian island, invested in a dozen startups. He really thought, okay, it's time to revel in the wealth he'd created.
But there was a catch.
A huge one. As he soon discovered, there's a massive difference between making money that's income and actually accumulating money, which is true wealth. He was brilliant at making millions, but surprisingly equally proficient at losing millions.
So it sounds like Mike's intense focus, maybe too much focus, on the top line on sales.
Yeah.
That was actually a dangerous distraction. It kept him from keeping what he earned.
Absolutely. He admits it himself, good at making millions, equally good at losing them.
Precisely. And that's such a common trap, isn't it? That house of cards scenario. You believe increased income automatically translates to wealth, but often it's just fueling bigger, maybe unnecessary expenses.
Yeah.
And those early successes, the big payouts he had, they let him kind of avoid the ultimate financial lessons for a while. It fed this arrogance that many successful people can develop until, like you said, the house inevitably falls.
And his absolute rock bottom moment,
Wow.
it struck on Valentine's Day. He gets this call from his accountant, finds out he owes $28,000 in taxes, but he only has $10,000 to his name.
Oof.
The raw shame, he says, of having to tell his family was just immense. And what happened next is incredibly poignant. His 9-year-old daughter, Adela, she gets up from the dinner table, comes back carrying her prized piggy bank.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, like secured with masking tape, duct tape, rubber bands, everything, and slides it toward him. She just says, "Daddy, we're going to make it."
That's powerful.
It was his ultimate humbling moment, realizing a child understood financial security better than he did. Save your money and block access to it so it doesn't get stolen, especially by yourself.
That piggy bank moment, it really underscores how easy it is to let the business just take over everything. It feels like you're fighting a cash-eating monster, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Almost like Dr. Frankenstein, bringing something amazing to life only for it to consume everything. Is that kind of what Mike means by the Frankenstein formula?
Exactly. You create this thing and then it turns around and, yeah, eats you alive. I bet many listeners right now might feel like they're fighting their own cash-eating monster of a business.
And that often leads entrepreneurs straight into what Mike calls the survival trap.
Yeah.
It's this relentless cycle, constantly chasing sales, not really to grow, but just to get out of the latest financial crisis.
Right.
Think about Ernie, the lawn guy example he gives. Made good money removing leaves, simple service. One day, he offers to clean gutters for a client, sees it as easy money. Then he notices shingles needing repair, then a crack in the chimney. He keeps adding these new services, thinking, more easy money with captive clients.
Makes sense on the surface.
But he ended up losing money because suddenly he needed ladders, roofing gear, bricks, new skills, temporary labor. He lost $500 on a $1,500 job.
Wow.
His increased costs and, frankly, reduced efficiency trying to do too many things meant he was actually moving farther away from his original vision of a lean, efficient lawn raking business.
So Ernie was basically expanding his problems, not his profits. It sounds like the system really forces you to scrutinize if all that activity actually equals progress, right?
Precisely. That's a perfect way to put it. And it raises that important question for all of us, really. How often do we mistake activity for progress in our own businesses? Taking on more just because it's there without truly understanding the real cost.
Okay, now let's get into the core argument, the thing that radically shifts perspective here. Mike argues that traditional accounting, GAAP, generally accepted accounting principles with its famous sales expenses equals profit formula, actually kills your business.
Which sounds counterintuitive at first.
It does. It's logical, sure, but as humans, we aren't always logical creatures, are we? It encourages what he calls top-line thinking, focusing on revenue first, last, and always, which makes profit just an afterthought, kind of whatever's left over.
And GAP's fundamental flaw, according to Mike, is exactly that. It goes against our basic human nature. No matter how much income we generate, Parkinson's law tends to kick in.
Which is?
That expenses rise to meet income. We almost always find a way to spend it, all of it. Everything seems justified, everything feels necessary, until, whoops, the bank account is suddenly empty again.
Yeah, I know that feeling.
And this isn't just theory, we see it play out. He gives the example of Alex, the bistro owner. She's collecting sales tax from customers, which is, the government's money.
Right, not hers.
Not hers. But she was using that money to cover other bills, convincing herself she needed the income right now. I'll pay back later. Well, later came when the state tax authority showed up, emptied her cash register right in front of customers, and she faced potential jail time. She thought she had time, but her natural habits, fueled by the traditional formula, worked against her.
Okay, so if traditional accounting basically pushes us towards spending everything, how do we break free? This is where Mike's revelation comes in, the real light bulb moment for Profit First. It came from a late-night PBS show about diets.
This hits, okay.
Yeah. The expert on the show explained that instead of fighting our natural tendency to clean the plate, eat everything in front of us, we should simply use smaller plates to manage portions.
I see where this is going.
Exactly. That was the sudden, profound insight. Apply that to finance.
And what's so fascinating is how directly and powerfully that simple analogy applies to business finance. The profit-first system isn't about changing those deeply ingrained habits, which, let's face it, are incredibly hard to break.
Almost impossible sometimes.
Right. It's about changing the structure around us and actually leveraging those existing habits. It relies on 4 core principles. First, use small plates. You mentally and physically reduce the cash available for expenses by moving money out of your main operating account into other accounts.
Okay, so create artificial scarcity.
Pretty much. Second, serve sequentially. You always allocate money to profit first, then owner's pay, then tax, then operating expenses, with whatever's left. And if there isn't enough money left for expenses, those expenses must be cut. No exceptions. No borrowing from profit.
That sounds strict.
It has to be. Third, remove temptation. You move those dedicated funds, profit, tax to separate bank accounts, ideally ones that are harder to access easily, out of sight, out of mind.
Makes sense, like hiding the cookie jar.
Exactly like hiding the cookie jar. And fourth, enforce a rhythm. You only pay bills twice a month. Specifically, Mike recommends the 10th and 25th. This stops the reactive panic paying and lets you gain control, gain visibility. You move to controlled, recurring cash flow management.
Okay, this systematic approach, it sounds incredibly powerful, almost too simple. But I can imagine someone listening already juggling a million things thinking, great, more bank accounts, more admin. Doesn't that add complexity?
That's a totally valid concern, and it's something Mike definitely addresses.
Yeah.
The beauty is it's designed to start incredibly small. Like, you might start allocating just 1% to profit initially. Just 1%.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, the idea is to make it manageable, make it habit-forming, without totally overwhelming the business owner right at the start. You implement the structure first, the accounts, the rhythm, even with tiny percentages. Then you gradually adjust those percentages over time. It's like building a muscle, right? You don't lift the heaviest weight on day one.
Gotcha. So one of the core tools to get started is the instant assessment. You mentioned this helps gauge your actual financial health fast.
That's right. It involves calculating your real revenue first. That's your top-line revenue minus materials and subcontractors, the costs directly tied to delivering your product or service.
Okay.
Then you figure out your actual current percentages for profit, owner's pay, taxes, and operating expenses based on that real revenue. Finally, you compare these real numbers to the target allocation percentages, or TAPs. These are suggested ranges based on your real revenue level.
And this can be a shock, right? Like having a bucket of ice water dropped on your head.
Oh, absolutely. It reveals exactly where the money is actually going, where you might be bleeding out, so to speak. He gives an example of a law firm with, say, $1.5 million in real revenue. They might do the assessment and find out the owners are taking way too much in pay, and the operating expenses are sky high. Suddenly they realize, despite the big revenue number, they're essentially just a break-even business.
Yeah.
And this really highlights why percentages are so crucial. Raw numbers can be misleading. Percentages reveal the relationship between different parts of your finances, the true health. Think of it like his analogy of Amazon Eve, the 6'8" bikini model. Her actual weight number might seem high compared to an average person.
Sure.
But relative to her height, she's perfectly proportioned, incredibly fit. It's the proportion, the percentage that matters. Similarly, $1 million in revenue can be Frankenstein ugly if expenses are also $1 million. But $500 in revenue can be supermodel gorgeous if you're managing to pull, say, 80% combined in owner's pay and profit. Percentages give you that accurate relative picture.
Right, the true health, not just the size. So, okay, someone's convinced, they see the logic. They might be thinking, where do I actually start? You said start small.
Start small and make it automatic. That's key. Set up those initial bank accounts, at least one for profit, one for tax, separate from your operating account. Then literally start by allocating just 1% of every single deposit that comes into your profit account.
Even if it feels like peanuts.
Especially if it feels like peanuts. It establishes the habit. It proves the system works without causing a 5 gallons of blood shock, as Mike puts it, to your cash flow. Set up those automatic transfers, or do them manually right away with every deposit. Then you gradually adjust the percentages upwards each quarter, maybe by another 1 or 2%, towards your target allocations.
And that rhythm we mentioned, the 10th and 25th for paying bills, that's critical too.
Absolutely critical. Mike credits his bookkeeper, Deborah Courtwright, for teaching him its importance. By only processing payables and paying bills twice a month on set dates, you move out of that reactive seat-of-your-pants mode where you're just paying whatever feels urgent.
Yeah, fighting fires constantly.
Exactly. Instead, you get into a controlled, recurring, frequent management cycle. This helps you see clear patterns in your cash flow, understand your expenses better, and ultimately take back real control over the money.
Okay, and then there's the reward part.
Yes, this is where the psychological reinforcement really kicks in. Every quarter, you take a quarterly distribution, 50% half, of whatever has accumulated in your profit account goes to you, the business owner, personally, for your benefit.
For celebration.
A bonus.
For whatever you choose. A vacation, paying down personal debt, investing, a nice dinner. It's your reward for building a profitable business. The other 50% stays in the profit account as a reserve, a cushion for the business.
Interesting. So it's not all just plowed back in.
No. This creates a powerful cash cow incentive. Your business starts to serve you, rather than you just constantly serving the business. He shares the story of Jorge and Jose, owners of specialized ECU repair. They started using profit first, and now they take these amazing dream vacations. Bermuda, Europe, funded by their profit distributions. They're not just making money, they're actually enjoying the fruits of their entrepreneurial labor.
That sounds like the dream, doesn't it? And pulling all these pieces together, the small plates, the rhythm, the distributions, it highlights how the system naturally forces you to become more efficient.
Right.
Absolutely. Because you're intentionally limiting the cash available for operating expenses, you have to find ways to do more with less.
Which connects to Mike's other work, the Pumpkin Plan.
Directly. The Pumpkin Plan is all about focusing your resources, finding your best clients, the ones who are most profitable and easiest to work with, and getting rid of the bad clients who suck your time, energy, and profit.
Those energy vampires.
Exactly. He cites a study by Strategex, I believe, that found something staggering. The top 25% of a company's clients often generate something like 150% of its profit.
Wow, 150%. How does that work?
Because the bottom 25% of clients often result in a 50% loss. They cost more to serve than they bring in. So dumping those unprofitable, time-sucking clients dramatically reduces stress, frees up vital resources, and naturally leads to higher profitability. You have more time to serve the clients you actually love working with. Profit first forces you to make those kinds of tough but necessary efficiency decisions.
Makes sense. But okay, you set up the accounts, you start the allocations, you adopt the rhythm. How do you actually stick with it? Discipline can waver, right?
For sure. Willpower is finite. That's where accountability comes in. The source really highlights the power of accountability groups. Mike calls them profit accelerator groups or profit pods. Think of them like Weight Watchers, but for your business finances.
So peer support.
Peer support and peer pressure, in a good way. He even points out that historical figures like Edison, Ford, Firestone had informal accountability groups to push each other. There's also this idea that the best student is always the teacher. By explaining the system to others in your group, you actually master it better yourself. Accountability just ensures you stay on track, especially when your old habits try to creep back in.
And for those who get the basics down and are ready for more, there are advanced techniques too.
Yeah, definitely. Once the foundation is solid, you can add layers.
Right.
Like the vault, that's basically your oh crap account, a larger emergency fund for the business, funded perhaps by some of that retained profit. Or a drip account that's useful if you get large upfront payments for projects that span months. You put the payment there and drip it into your regular accounts over time, matching revenue to the periods earned.
Smart.
And even little psychological tricks, like renaming your tax account in your online banking to the government's money.
Yeah.
Just that little mental shift makes you less likely to borrow from it in a pinch.
I like that. Okay, so this is clearly powerful for business finances, but you mentioned earlier it goes beyond that.
Oh, absolutely. What's truly powerful is how these same principles, small plates, sequence, removing temptation, rhythm, can be applied directly to your personal finances.
So profit first for your life.
Exactly. He shares the story of Lori Udi, an accountant. She implemented profit first in her own practice, and with her first owner's profit distribution, she took her family on their first ever Disneyland trip. And the amazing part, while she was away enjoying that, her business actually grew faster because the systems were working. It gave her permission to benefit personally from her professional success.
That's fantastic. So how does it work personally? Similar accounts.
Pretty much the same principles. Setting up small plates or different accounts or envelopes for your personal income, removing temptation, maybe automating savings transfers, enforcing a rhythm for paying bills, and reviewing your finances. It also includes tackling debt head-on. He suggests a debt destroyer account where you accumulate funds and then use a debt snowball method, similar to what Dave Ramsey teaches, to aggressively pay off debts one by one.
Right, focusing fire on the smallest step first for the psychological win.
Exactly. It's about facing the reality of debt and, as Mike puts it, ripping off the Band-Aid, rather than just fiddling with interest rates or minimum payments. This helps overcome powerful psychological biases like loss aversion, our tendency to strongly prefer avoiding losses over acquiring equivalent gains.
Meaning we hate giving up money even to pay debt.
Right, and the endowment effect, where we overvalue things we already possess. Sometimes we cling to our debt almost like it's an asset, weirdly enough. The goal here is total debt eradication.
And beyond debt.
You learn to lock in your lifestyle using what he calls the wedge theory. This means when you get a raise or your income increases, you don't just let your expenses inflate to match it. You intentionally create a wedge by saving or allocating at least half of that increase. Your lifestyle improves, but your savings rate improves even faster.
That prevents lifestyle creep.
Precisely. And he even talks about teaching kids financial responsibility using a similar envelope system, giving them allowances split into envelopes for big dreams, savings, family support, contributing, impact charity, the vault, emergencies, and mad money spending.
Wow, practical stuff.
Yeah, preparing them for the real world, not just, spoiling them.
Okay, this all sounds incredibly positive. But what are the pitfalls? Where do people go wrong, even with this system?
What's truly fascinating, and maybe the biggest risk, is just sliding back into old belief systems. Forgetting the why behind the structure. He tells the story of Bob the accountant, composite, probably who represents that traditional black and white accounting mindset. Bob might implement the accounts, but if he doesn't grasp the behavioral reasons, it won't work. His clients, despite the mechanics, still wouldn't be truly profitable because the underlying spending habits weren't addressed.
So just going through the motions isn't enough.
Right. And another big pitfall is the plowback temptation. That idea that you should always be reinvesting profit back into the business for growth. Mike argues that constantly plowing profit back in is often actually a sign of inefficient operations, not healthy growth. You're essentially borrowing from your future profit to cover today's inefficiencies or unnecessary expenses. Healthy businesses should generate profit you can take out.
That's a fundamental shift in thinking for a lot of entrepreneurs.
It really is.
Okay, so wrapping this up. Profit First clearly isn't just about moving money between accounts. It feels more like a philosophy for reclaiming control, for building a genuinely robust financial future, both in business and life. It's about transforming that potential cash-eating monster into, as Mike says, a powerful, lovable beast that actually serves you.
Well said.
The commitment and, frankly, the courage it takes to really fix your business's financials, potentially once and for all. That sounds like it could transform everything.
It really can.
Yeah.
And that leaves us with a pretty important question for you, our listener, to think about. How healthy is your business truly? Are you, the owner, eating first? Or are you surviving on the leftovers? Or maybe even worse, scraps from the garbage can in the alley, metaphorically speaking.
Yeah.
Michalowicz makes a bold promise. If you implement this system, your business will become permanently profitable, starting from your very next deposit. Now, it takes discipline, absolutely. It takes a shift in mindset, but the potential payoff is immense, finally reaping the real rewards of all your hard work and risk. You might never have to have your own piggy bank moment again. So the question is, what small step will you take today? What action can you start to make your business not just bigger, but truly fundamentally healthier?
A truly powerful thought to leave you with from this deep dive. Until next time, stay curious.
Manufacturers can benefit from the working capital that accounts receivable factoring can provide. Contact Chris Lehnes at Person Funding to learn if your business is a factoring fit.